Snap, crackle, pop. Did you know there used to be a fourth one?
What was it?
Produced it for like a couple of months in the 70s.
I feel like there's going to be a joke coming here.
Snap, crackle, pop, and I think it was pow. It was pow. No, it was poof.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the YouTube clip of our
Wee Movies.
Of Wee Movies. We're doing a review of First Man today.
I'm Scotty.
This is Jordan right over here, and yeah, I'm pretty keen to get into this. If you
Houston,
want to
we
listen
have
to, sorry,
Contact.
yes,
Sorry.
finish your. Do you think?
First Man, written by Josh Singer, based on the novel by James R. Hansen, directed by Damien Chazelle, tells the story of how Neil Armstrong goes through iconic events and how he deals with the death of his daughter in doing so.
Beautiful synopsis.
That's my synopsis.
That's wonderful.
Ryan Gosling plays Neil Armstrong.
Yes.
Claire Foy plays...
Oh no,
Okay, I'll just do the whole thing then.
Yeah, you just do the whole
Janet
thing. This is your
Armstrong.
thing.
Kyle Chandler plays Deke Slayton. Jason Clarke plays Ed White. Corey Stoll plays Buzz Aldrin. And there's a very good cast list beyond that.
Yes, fantastic cast list. If you want to listen to our longer version, it'll be in podcast form on Spotify, and the link will be in the description. But for now, we're going to try and keep it short and brief. Let's jump right in.
I love the movie. It's fantastic. It uses lighting in a very simplistic but beautiful way to tell the character motivations. Ryan Gosling gives one of his best performances, in my opinion. Claire Foy is fantastic. Jordan.
What I loved most about it was the cinematography, and also the pacing was really strong. It really focused a lot on the emotions of the characters and what they went through and the choices that they made that got impacted by their
It
experience.
highlights, in my opinion, how Neil Armstrong was using his work to hide from his emotions. And the pacing helps with that because it's very stagnant in terms of these high energy things are happening, like the Gemini 8 project, or he's helping test fly a moon buggy and stuff like this. It's just him running away.
Yeah. And it increases as we go through the film as well.
It does. It slowly escalates to where he is cut off and running away from his own responsibilities and his own emotions.
And his own family, who need him during this time. And one of the beautiful things was that escalation was also present in his relationship with his wife.
Yep.
And Claire Foy does an amazing job in the role that she has here.
Love the Foy.
Free the Foy. If she ever gets imprisoned somewhere, we can say that and put it on a sign.
Please don't put Claire Foy in prison.
Don't put Claire Foy in prison, please. She's a national treasure, and she does an incredible job throughout this film. There's in really good films, especially action films or thriller films. There's this concept of the bomb under the table. There's an unknown threat that is alluded to in a scene or in a film where something bad or something explosive is coming for the main character or side character.
And the elephant in the room for this is the death of his daughter.
Yes.
And how he's dealing with that.
Yeah. And with that bomb under the table, it exists within the relationship between Claire Foy and Ryan Gosling's characters. Their relationship is strained by the death of their daughter. And it's heart-wrenching to watch sometimes.
And it's escalated by the fact that there's so many deaths of the pilots around Neil at the same time.
And he almost, we see him progressively just get shut off from a lot of that. Like, he closes himself off from connections by, midpoint through the film.
And the film very visually and metaphorically shows us this in his actions, which is so beautifully done. The lighting, I think we've already mentioned, it's fantastic.
For reference, there's a scene where he and one of his best friends, Ed White,
played by Jason Clarke.
Played by Jason Clarke, who does also an amazing job. They're walking home after just going out for a beer, and they're walking past another pilot's house, and Neil looks over and he sees a new swing set that the pilot has installed for his children. And he turns to White and he says, did he get a new swing set? And then he said, yeah, I think that's only been there for the last couple of days.
It's incredible because the film is focused on both of them at first. They're just discussing normal piloting things.
And they're almost in the light. And I feel like this is an important thing to mention in this film. The light is used metaphorically, like any source of light is used metaphorically for Neil letting go of his daughter.
Yes, he's hiding from his emotions,
Yes.
or letting go, or embracing his darkness.
And so the light metaphorically encapsulates that for Neil. And in this scene, he looks over and he says, I think it's Kate is the name of his daughter? Karen is the name of his daughter. And he looks over and he says, oh, wow, that swing set, Karen would have loved it. And then as soon as he says her name, he shuts off and he walks back over to his house. And I think it should be noted, the park or the area where this swing set is flooded with blue light.
Yeah.
It's very eerie and ghostly, but his house, the house that he walks to, is shrouded in complete darkness.
Yeah.
And so again, he's escaping from what he has to deal with in order to function as a human being.
And it's also more heartbreaking when you realize this is only 10 minutes before you see the scene of Jason Clarke's character, Ed White, burning to death. And this is one of the few people he was almost talking to about his daughter's death. And then you see them pass away. And you see his reaction to his death. And all this emotional baggage is pushed onto Neil Armstrong's character. And he's weighed down. You can feel how his steps have weight because of that.
And a credit to Ryan Gosling. I think the more films he is in, the better he becomes as an actor, because this film, from start to finish, his character builds these emotional walls to block off not just emotion coming in from other people, but emotion escaping as well.
Yeah.
And by this point, when White dies, we see him on the phone hearing about it from his superiors, and this emotional wall just comes. You can see it on his face.
You can see all the things in his head,
It's-
all his emotions that he's suppressing come to the surface, and him burying them down again.
It's insane. This is probably one of the best performances of last year in a live action film.
Well, that's the thing. We don't even talk about Claire Foy, because in my opinion, Claire Foy is
well, that's the thing. Claire Foy is also burying a lot of emotions underneath that performance.
She does, and their relationship together as parents is one of the most honest parents.
There's a scene that brings me back, and we talk about it a little bit more in the podcast, but there's a scene that brings me back to my childhood. I have two younger siblings, so I've seen my parents react like this, and I'm pretty sure
Yes, I've seen this as well.
Yeah, you've seen this as well. There's a scene where one of the siblings annoys the other, and the other one goes off crying, and Ryan sends him into the corner, and Claire Foy is just trying not to laugh because it's a very serious moment. They can't let their children see them laugh when they're punishing them, but she can't help it. She's giggling and laughing, and Ryan, the kid, asks, "Why is Mum laughing?" And Ryan's like, "She's not laughing. She's crying because of what you did."
So good.
And it's really truthful. It's really truthful, and I think that rings throughout the whole film. Is they are so focused on just being honest with the audience.
Kids act like kids. They're very childish, but in a very honest and real manner. And that actually brings out both the best and the worst from Ryan Gosling's character, because you see him interact with them or not interact with them, depending on how buried or how close to his emotions are to gripping him.
Yeah, and there's a moment where that kind of reaches its peak, and he and Claire Foy have an argument, and she tells him, "You have to connect with your kids before you leave on this moon mission." And he sits down, and by this point, he's very distant from his children and his family and his friends. And he sits down with his kids, and it's almost like if he's talking to the media.
Yes.
It's a press conference with his children, which is insane. It's kind of funny, but it's also it's quite bittersweet.
It's
at
very
the same
poignant,
time. And there's a moment where his oldest, he asks him the question, "Are you coming back?" And he dodges around it, and he says, "Look, we're planning on coming back." And then his son looks him dead in the eye, and he says, "No. Are you coming back?" And that hits him, and you can see the weight of that just go through his body. And at the very end of the scene,
because he's closed himself off from this very thing. To him, he's put himself in work mode where he has to give himself the politically correct answer, if you were.
Yes. And he at the very end of the scene, the children get up and go to bed, and before the oldest leaves the table, he extends his hand to his father and shakes his hand. And this is an important moment, not just for Ryan Gosling's character, but for the son as well, because this son has had a character evolution where he realizes, my father may not survive. He may not be coming back. I need to step up and be the man of the house. And so in his mind in an attempt to be more mature and be more adult, he does what adult men do when they say goodbye or they greet each other, and he shakes his father's hand. And that movement, that physical action says so much more about these two characters than any line of dialogue ever could. And that's what really sums this film up. I feel like this film is built on pictures saying 1,000 words where words fall short.
It's a very visual movie in terms of it telling its story and telling its characters' emotional development. Ryan Gosling's dialogue is very when he's talking, most of the time his words are to do with his work or his technical involvement. It's when he's not talking that you can tell stuff's going on.
Yeah, and I feel like he's probably only got maybe 10 to 12 pages of dialogue throughout the whole movie. And that's probably out of 220
I wouldn't be surprised
pages.
if some of the side characters had more lines than he did.
Yeah.
If Jason Clarke had more lines, I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah. Which is insane. And it's a credit to his performance as well that it gets pulled off.
It does.
It's just, yeah.
Also, the way they shoot all the action sequences, and by action I mean the launches and all the flying, isn't impeccable. It's very visceral, and you feel like you're there. It's very claustrophobic as well.
It feels real. Like there's a lot of stuff that I'm going to bring up the Hunger Games, because the Hunger Games used shaky cam quite a lot in that first movie, but it was done for the wrong reasons. It was done, it looks different and cool and it's interesting.
It's edgy.
And edgy because we're young adult. Whereas in this film, it was done to make the audience feel like they were actually there. And for that purpose and that purpose alone, it works really well for this movie.
I think there's a scene that highlights this in the fact that they go onto a G-force machine and they come out and they vomit, because that's what space is like.
Yeah.
If you're flying at these high G-force rates, you feel physically sick. It's just a natural reaction.
And it's great because the other characters, Neil goes first into this machine, and the other characters are kind of like, he fails, obviously. He blacks out. And they turn to White and they go, okay, White, you're up. And he's like, all right. Kind of like, I could do this better than him. And then Neil says, no, wait. I want to go again. And then we cut to Neil in the bathroom vomiting. And he gets up and goes to the sink. And then White comes through and he's got this bravado up. He's like, I still... And then... There's just one look, and
look,
he
runs straight to the toilet.
And he runs straight to the toilet and vomits. And it's great. It's really just all of the actors did phenomenal work on this, from the main cast to even the smallest side characters, because the way that this was filmed was a documentary style, and because it's documentary, it means the sets had to be cleared of any equipment that could be seen by the camera. It also means that every single actor, including just the most insignificant extra, needed to have a script tailored to them, so that if the camera were to bypass them, or a mic picked them up, or anything, like if the camera decided to stop on them at the end of a scene, they needed to be doing and saying something that had weight and relevance to the time period and what they were actually doing.
I think a good example of a small character was the actor who was playing Michael Collins, the third person he has this small scene where they're about to put them into the buggy, send them back onto the moon, and he's like, do you want this? Do you want that? Do you want this? And Neil's like, enough. And then
he's going through do you want a toothbrush? Do you want a and
then he just says, please come back.
Yeah.
Which is such a real line.
Yeah. And it's just
And it's the exact opposite of anything that Neil would say as well.
Yeah. And it's just beautiful movie. Anyway, I think we'll wrap it up. What would you
I'm
give
giving an
this
8
movie?
out of 10 in terms of just, it's hard to give an exact rating, but it's better than half the movies, in my opinion, on the Oscar list. Much better than Bohemian Rhapsody.
Yeah.
You, Jordan?
I would be giving it about 8 out of 10, maybe even 9 on a good day. I feel like this is a film that you need to be in the right mindset to view. If you're expecting an action film, don't watch this movie. If you're expecting a sci-fi thriller, don't watch this movie.
It's a drama. It's a heavy drama.
It's a heavy drama, and it deals with heady themes of loss, grief. It's very truthful, and if you're not ready to accept that kind of truth in cinema, you are not ready to watch this movie.
Or any movie, really.
Or any, what are you doing? Just read it. Go play a
read a book.
Multiplayer video game. Go play Fortnite if you're not ready for this movie.
Okay, well, I'm Scotty. This is Jordan. Where We Movies. We want to hear your opinions.
Yes.
If you've seen this movie and have different opinions, please tell us, even if they aren't the same opinions as us. In fact, we much prefer if they weren't, so we can have a discussion. We like
If you're a
discussion.
conspiracy theorist, please, I am begging you, leave some comments because we want to hear from you.
And then go check yourself into a mental hospital.
Yes, please do that as well because we don't want to have to deal with that ramification after we read out your comments. But yes, as Scotty said, we are We Movies. I'm Jordan. This is Scotty, and we will catch you next time.
Bye.